Good morning, everyone. I hope you've had a great week, and I really hope that you stopped to do something to celebrate and acknowledge International Women's Day. And hopefully you found a way to reach out and help women in your community who aren't able to help themselves. I want to move on now to the three view. That's the message for the week. But this week's three view, and this is a book that most of you have probably not heard of unless you've been really assiduously following my work. This book is called Requisite Organisation by Elliott Jaques. Now, Elliott Jaques was a Canadian social scientist and ultimately management consultant who developed theories that really form the basis for a lot of the way that I think about the world of work, and in particular the organisation. So the reason you probably haven't heard of him or his books is because if you have a look, these are very textbooky books, so I'd say. So it never hit the mainstream because it's not the sort of book that you grab on an airport shelf. Not that anybody grabs books on airport shelves at the moment, but it's not that sort of book. He predated TED Talks and the sort of platforms that allowed people to really become quite instantly well-known globally. But his work has been used by numerous corporations and very big corporations worldwide to found their understanding of the people systems that they use, the way they structure the organisation, and how they develop the relationships between managers and their teams. So I was first exposed to his work nearly 20 years ago. And as I say, a number of the models and the theories and the insights that I work with grew from the work that I did when I was immersed in a program that was effectively implementing requisite organisation principles in the organisation I worked in at the time. So the three biggest light bulb moments and aha moments for me back then and still through to today are as follows. Number one, organisations need to be organised in a particular hierarchy so that the right complexity of work is done at each level. So when we've entered this fad of, flat structures and no one reports to anyone and everyone's kind of, it's all a bit up in the air, this is a really ineffective way to think about an organisation because there are certain types of complexity of work that have to occur, and they have to occur at the right level in the organisation so that the organisation can A, function optimally now, and B, continue to function well into the future. So this whole concept of what he called stratified systems theory is fundamental to understanding what makes an organisation really sing. So that's the first insight. The second insight relates to that, and that is, as you go up the chain in the hierarchy, the duration of the work that person is doing gets longer. So for example, if you're right at the front line, the stuff that you do is completed within a day or two. Whereas if you're the CEO of a huge organisation, you're working on things that may not crystallize for another 5 or 7 or 10 years. And that's really fundamental to understanding who to put in those roles and how to drive the organisation forward. And the third insight, and this is a very deep and complex insight, which I'm going to capture just really succinctly, is what is the proper role of a manager? Now, that sounds like a really obvious question that everyone knows the answer to, but it is quite remarkable when you dig into it how many organisations have not properly defined the expectations of a manager, how many people don't fully understand really who their manager is and what their manager's role is. And what Jaques has done throughout his principles and his theories and his practice is define that role, talk about the authorities a manager needs to have, and the sort of questions a manager needs to be able to ask. So those things had a hugely formative impact on me. And I really, if you are super interested in knowing what makes organisations tick, then really this book is your starting point. Thank you, everyone. Have a great weekend, and I will see you next week.